Our goal with this course is to give you tools to help stimulate inspired discussion in your classroom through using the C3 framework. This week, we're zooming in on Dimension 2 of the inquiry arc. In this dimension, students are asked to apply concepts and tools in the 4 core disciplines of social studies: civics, economics, geography, and history. We are going to talk about how we do this in history. Of all the disciplines, history probably gets the worst rap from students. They often see history as a stew full of dates, facts, and names that are discrete but not really connected. The C3 tries to change this by clarifying the purposes of history as developing students' capacity to think historically. Students are asked to become like detectives, sifting through the historical record as they try to make sense of the past. This includes looking at a variety of sources like journal entries, newspaper articles, speeches, images, and then reading those sources to interpret a historical event or figure. For example, if we take the question, was the civil rights movement of the 1960s a success? Students might take a look at the ambitions set forth in Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. They could look at conditions set forth by King and ask, has his dream been realized? Is America a place where children are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin? Is America a place where different ethnicities can work together, pray together, struggle together in equality? The goal of historical thinking is to develop credible explanations of historical events based on a reasoned interpretation of evidence. In this way, history is not a finished story that students simply need to memorize. Instead, history is a living interpretation that is being written and rewritten every day. Dimension 2 of the C3 framework focuses on disciplinary skills, but does not prescribe the topical content that students learn when applying these skills. For example, all students should be able to interrogate a source for credibility. All students should be able to marshal evidence to support an argument. However, it's important to remember that content cannot be separated from skills. It's simply an artificial distinction. The bottom line is that Dimension 2 of the C3 is incomplete without content. Topical content provides the material for students to think historically. How can they understand an author's perspective without thinking about the time period in which a source was created? Who was the author? When was the source created? Is it credible? I make this point because the distinction between content and skills is often problematic in our field. Some social studies educators think the most important thing for students to know is topical content. Others argue that it's skills. Well, spoiler alert, both are important. The key is in creating a balance between the two so that the content is situated within skill development. For example, one of my favorite high school teachers, Christy Hill in Kentucky, thinks of her subject matter in 3 domains: topical content, conceptual content, and disciplinary skills. Using this as a guide, we can see how these elements are distinct but complementary. Christy begins with the topical focus, the American response to the attack on Pearl Harbor. In this unit, she focuses on ordinary Americans' response to the attack. Using man-on-the-street interviews conducted a day or 2 after the attack, she asks her students to read and evaluate these documents for clues on how Americans felt. She then has students focus on a unique set of interviews, ones that seek the reactions of African Americans. In one interview, an African American student at the City College of New York states,
"We feel that as long as we have fascism at home, it is rather futile to fight it on the outside if we are not at the same time fighting it from within."
Christy is able to pull these thematic or conceptual ideas out, racism, prejudice, and connect them to the continuing struggle for equality by all Americans. Using Christy's approach, I encourage you to examine a current unit you are teaching and see if you can tease out these 3 layers of understanding. Are content, concepts, and skills evident within your lessons? Is there an equilibrium between the 3? As you move through this course, we will work through additional examples to help you get a little more comfortable with this approach.